All right, everybody, we're back for the most important step, and that is to attach the fins to our rocket. I want to show you something that I've done here. I have a fake fin. This is not one we're going to use. I just want to show you something. And you can see what I've done is I've squeezed a small bead of glue all along the fin. Not too much. Okay, first of all, let me show you the right way and the wrong way to put on the fins. The first way is not good. This is not good. Don't do this. A lot of people, what they'll do is they'll put the fin on down here and then they'll slide it up to where they want the fin to be. Now this makes some serious problems. You can see its fin doesn't even stick to it. All the glue will get beaded up at the end, and the front that got wiped off will have very little or no glue on it at all. See all the glue is on the back there? We do not want that. That's not good. Let me show you the way that it should be done with this other kind of scrap fin. Again, this is not a part of the project. This is just something I'm showing you. So the idea is that instead of doing it that way, I get a little too much glue on there. We want to take it, put it about where it is and get it lined up. And so in our thing, we're going to slide it in the jig and make sure it doesn't touch the rocket, and then squish it down all at once. And look at that. Because the glue stayed on all of it, gravity isn't defeating this quite. I mean, it's trying, but the other one when I put it on, it just fell right off. It's because I stripped all the glue off of it when I slid it across. Well, instead we want to push it in and then push it down flat. Okay, that's really important when it comes to these fins. Okay, now this isn't the real deal. This is just fake stuff that I was doing to show you the idea. So what we don't want to slide the fin on while it's touching the rocket. What we do want is we want to put it close and then push it down. Okay, I'll toss this stuff. We don't need that anymore. Okay, so let's get down to the real deal. Before we do this, I'm going to pause and go grab a paper towel because I highly recommend. All right, so we're back and got all my stuff that I'm going to need here. So first of all, let's talk about the stuff you're going to need for this step. Let's zoom out a bit. Okay, so number one, we're going to need a pencil to mark our tube. Make sure we put them on the right place. We're going to need the body tube that should already, in the first video, we already put the engine block in there. Of course, we're going to need all 5 fins. 5 of them there. And you're going to need this 3D printed fin alignment jig. You're going to need a bottle of Elmer's white glue. You're going to need a paper towel or just something that something you don't care about if it gets this glue on it, because you're going to wipe your fingers on it. You're going to get some glue on your fingers and stuff like that. And you might need, actually, depending, and I'll talk about this in a minute, you might need some of your masking tape as well. Okay, so why don't you gather all those things, pause the video and gather all those things, and we'll get going on this. And by the way, if you're doing this off the internet, I will put a link to the 3D printed fin jig on Thingiverse that you can download. Right now I only have the 5-part one. I don't have the 3 and the 4 configuration that would be possible with this rocket build. Maybe in the future I'll add that to it. But all right, so let's take a look here. And the first things first. Before we do anything, I want to mark the tube so we don't screw up. Okay. Now, because of our situation, our club was in with whatever, because we didn't give out sandpaper, we should have put the engine block in after the fins. What we have to first of all do is mark which end of your tube has the engine block in it. That's the side we have to put the fins on. So you see this side looks empty, and this side has the engine block just a little ways in there like we put in the first video. So I'm just going to mark it with an F on this end, because that's where my fins are going. F. I'm going to put a few of those around here on this end. And I want to make sure, and again, we're going to paint over this so it doesn't matter. I'm going to put X's up here on the front. I do not want to put these fins on the front, okay? Because they have to be on the same side as the engine block, okay? That's really important. As a matter of fact, your whole project's ruined if you don't get that right. So the side with the engine block, mark it with an F. That's where we're putting the fins, all right? If you do it the right way, you should do it later. Now look, the first idea is that what we're going to do is we're going to put our body tube into here, into this hole in the fin jig. Now there might be some problems with that. When I 3D print these, all the printers print a little bit differently in terms of like how much plastic they're putting down and how accurately they print it. So what I had to do is I had to make that tube hole a little bit bigger than normal. What that means is that sometimes some of you might get this and it'll fit just fine and it doesn't wiggle around much at all. Some of you are going to put it in there and it's going to be really loose and wiggly. Here's how you fix the loose wiggly parts. What you're going to do, and I've done it to this one already, but I'll show you an example. If we take a look, you can see what I've done is I've put little thin strips of tape right in the middle on all 5 of those. And what that does is it's going to fill in that gap that used to be loose and wiggly. So what we would do, if yours is like that, if you put it in your tube really does move around quite a bit. And it doesn't have to be like glued down tight, but it does have you want it to be tight so it goes somewhat tight, so it does go fairly straight with the fins go straight up and down. If it can wiggle, there's no way of telling which way your fins are going to go on there. So what you do is you just take a piece of tape. Actually, let's not do it like that. Let's do it with this. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to cut a thin strip of tape to fill in that little gap there, and you can cut 5 of them because if it's really loose, you're going to need all 5 of them, of course, right? So I just take this and I just cut off. We can't make it too wide because it'll block the glue from going on. We just cut off 5 little strips just like this. Okay, that might be a little wide, but I think it should be okay. So take my little strip of tape, and then what you can do is you can carefully tape it in there in these middle sections. Don't block the curved part on the outside. That's where the glue has to squish to. If you have your tape there, it will glue in there. So again, you may not have to do this step if your printer printed it tight enough, but if not, again, I can't print it too tight. I want to make sure, so that's why I had to print it too loose, and then we can fix that very easily with a little bit of tape. Okay? Okay, cool. So that's how you do it. So you might need to make 5 little tiny strips of tape. I've already done that, but you may have to do that on yours. Okay, so now I'm going to look at it and make sure, double check. Is the side with the fins the side with the engine block? Yeah, the fins go on the same end as the engine block. This is very important, okay? Zoom back out. Cool. I'll move this over a bit. Okay, so let's get after it. First things first, your glue bottle. Let's get it going and prime it up a bit. I'm just going to get rid of some of that glue from the end of it. You might have to clean up the nozzle if there's extra glue on it. We want to have a nice, smooth flowing glue so we can put it on there. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take it, make sure, double checking, because my whole project's ruined otherwise. Did I get the fin side correct? Yep, I got it right. The side with the engine block, same side the fins are going on. And I'm going to set that down until it's square right on the end. So it just barely touches at the end. You could actually push it like this and push it down against the table, and that would ensure the same thing. And you know what? I can move it around if I really try, but it is fairly tight. From here on out, I'm going to be very careful that I do not bump or move this or rotate it because my fins are going to start to be on there. So here's how we do it. We're going to take our fins, and again, with this rocket, I want you to know you have some options. Let's look at the instructions. You can see in this picture here, they're showing you that you can attach, this rocket is designed to be stable no matter how you attach the fins. So you could pick any 4 sides and any front or back orientation that you want. You can also pick technically to make this a 3 or 4 fin rocket, but I don't have the jig made for that yet. So we're going to make a 5 fin rocket. But my point is, whatever you want to do. Now look, I've already got, my favorite is this one here. Let me show you, sorry. I like just the good old, the default configuration. 5 fins put on like this. This is how I like it. But I've already made that one, so I'm going to make something a little different. You get to choose yourself. If you don't know how they'll look, just hold them up there or look at some of the pictures in your instruction manual, some of these pictures right here, and you can get an idea of like what you think would look the coolest. It's up to you, all right? For this project, I'm going to put, you know what? I think I want to put this fin down. Yeah, let's do it like that. So I'm going to put it down like that, but you get to choose how you do yours, and they're all a little bit different. Again, I like the other way better, but okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly squeeze a bead of glue all along this edge. Let's see if you guys can see that well. Now what are you trying to do? You want to make sure that every bit of the fin edge that's going to get glued on, only that one edge, that's it, should get enough glue, a bead of glue on it. Okay. So there I have my bead of glue, but guess what? It's not so much that the glue runs onto the side of the fin. Okay, that's really important. So you want to get enough glue on there to cover the entire edge that you're going to glue down, but nothing more. We don't want enough to where it's falling off the edge. Now, watch carefully. So what I'm going to do, let's see if I can get an autofocus. Oh, that's pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to take my fin the way that I want it, and I'm going to slide it in, but I'm not going to touch the rocket yet. See how there's a gap there. I'm not touching the rocket yet. Remember, we want to slide it in and then push it down. Still not touching the rocket with the fin. No glue is touching the rocket yet. Now I got it lined up with, see how I got it in there and it's almost lined up with the bottom of the rocket? I got to go in a little further, don't I? There it is. And now, see how it's still not touching the rocket? That glue's chilling in there. It's just waiting. And that's fine if you take your time, because guess what? When the glue gets a little bit more tacky, you don't want to take more than a couple minutes, but when the glue gets a little more tacky, it's actually pretty good for us. Okay? So I'm going to push that onto the rocket. I'm going to apply pressure on both sides. I don't need to push too hard. And I'm going to make sure that it's lined up proper. Cool. And you can look, and if you want it that way, I've got it really well lined up with the end of the rocket. Doesn't stick out any extra. That one looks good, and I'm going to push it down and make sure that I don't touch it again. Leave it alone. And then I'm going to go on, and I'm going to do the same thing to the next one. I'm going to make sure I put my glue on the correct edge. And again, we want to put glue down enough so that every bit of the fin, very light squeeze. And I keep my bottle moving back and forth. If you screw up and you put too much on, just wipe it off on a paper towel and try again. It's no big deal. Just some cardstock. Okay, so now I'm going to do this other one in the same manner. Okay. Oh, gotta be careful I don't bump that tube on something. Again, I'm going to put it in without touching the rocket. I got a little too much glue on this, but I think it should be okay. And I don't want to touch the glue to the plastic on the fin jig, because otherwise it will glue to the fin jig. You've got to be very, very careful. Okay, that looks good. So I pushed it in. So it was just a little bit off the rocket. I pushed it in, and then I push it against the side of the rocket. Cool. You can see we have 2 down and 3 to go. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm actually excited to make this same rocket, but with a different fin configuration. I think that's really cool. That's one thing I really like about this, is that everybody's could look a little bit different. Even though it's the same rocket kit, everybody's rocket ends up turning out just a little bit different. And honestly, people in my rocket club, the way I wanted to do this, I just didn't get it. I didn't quite get the fin jigs made correctly. So I want to, next time we make it, hopefully in the future, for the next group of kids, we'll have a fin jig that's 5, 4, or 3 fins. But for now, we just have the 5 fin, which looks pretty cool. And again, we'll push this in, but not touching the rocket yet. Carefully. Just take your time, guys. Small, light movements. We don't need to go too crazy. Still not touching the rocket at all. Now we put it down. See, now it's pushing down and flat against the side of the rocket. I'm going to really make sure. Now, remember I said don't slide it. Hey, if you need to adjust a little bit, that's fine to slide it a little bit to make sure it lines up correctly. Okay, cool. There's my 3rd fin. And now I just have 2 more to do. I'm going to do that. So again, oop. Now see, I'm starting to get a lot of junk on the end of my glue bottle, so I'm going to clean off the nozzle, because it's really important to do this nice and even. Spread it out. Again, we want just enough glue to cover that entire edge, but not so much that it runs down onto the fin. Just a little bead of glue on there. I might have a little much there. So you just kind of grab it and pull away. Just a little bit. I just took off a little bit. We still have some there. Okay. All right, cool. So let's go to the next part and get that. Oh, I almost put it on backwards. Oops. So I'm going to wedge it in there. And see, if you guys can see, this is why I have those little gaps in here. So that when you put it in there, the glue doesn't squish onto the side and glue the whole thing to the fin jig, right? So you got to be careful with that. Again, I'm going to slide her, all right, in there without touching. I think I touched a little bit, not much. And then push it down all at once, straight down. Okay, 4 down, and this is looking sweet. I think, you know, I'm really happy I put my fins on this way because I think it looks pretty cool. I like this. You know, I thought, you know what, this old way, this original way, that's the only way to make it look cool. But you know what? Now I'm seeing this. I can't see it without the fin jig on. And don't take the fin jig off yet. You have to let some of the glue dry before you can slide that thing up off of there, right? And just about done this step. I try to encourage people to try out model rocketry. This is the most difficult step. But you can see when we have the 3D printed fin jig, it just makes it so much easier to do it correctly. You still have to be careful a little bit, don't you? But it makes it so that anyone can get their rocket pretty good. You don't have to be a pro builder. Before you know it, our club... Ooh, what happened there? You know what? I think I rubbed my glue on there. That's bad news. So what I'm going to do, so on that one, some of the glue got on the side. That's nothing wrong with that. It's good that I can actually show you what to do if that happens. So I'm going to take a piece of scrap cardboard. This is cut off of that sheet that we didn't use all of. And I'm just going to rub it in there to get some of that glue off of there. Because I screwed up and rubbed the glue against the thing. Okay, got it. Let's clean it off and put more glue on my actual real fin. Now that we fixed that problem, hopefully. And I think on that one, I just slid it in too high up. And it wasn't, the glue bead wasn't in that little hole. So it kind of scraped it off a lot of it. So I got to be more careful. You know what else too is this jig's a little bit tight on the fins. But that's okay. There it is, and now we press that one down. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. There we go. And there you have it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video, and I'm going to let this thing dry off for a little while. I'll probably wait, well, just a little while here. So pause it. And you know what's important too? When it's drying and you're just waiting for it to dry, don't set it down like this because it'll put pressure on those fins. We want to set it down on the edge of the plastic. This is heavy enough to where it should balance just fine with just like this. So leave it like this when it dries, okay? And by the way, if your fins, when you put your fins in, if they're wobbly because it's too loose, you can also use the tape trick on the fin part, the same trick that we used to straighten out the body tube, all right? So I'm going to pause this, and we'll come back in a minute after it's dried up. Actually, in a little while. So there we go. We've set now, you know, I've set this 45-minute timer using the internet here, so I'm going to probably come back to it in 45 minutes and see if I can take it off there. That should be enough time, but we'll see. All right, we're back, and the timer is up. Turn that off. Let's check out our rocket, see if we can get this separated. 45 minutes is what I waited. I'm kind of worried that we might need to wait a little bit longer, but we're going to find out right now. Let's see. So we got to be careful. It's possible that you might have put some glue that stuck to the plastic. So we're going to go really, really slow when we take this off. And if you can't get it off, it's probably because you weren't careful enough when you put it on and you've literally glued your rocket to the thing. If that's the case, I don't have any to give you. You might have to use a hobby knife to separate it. But let's go ahead and take a look here. We're ready to go. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull this off, and I'm going to just do it very slowly and gently. It's not easy, and I'm going to take my time, right? Get this thing there. One thing, to loosen it up, you may want to push down a bit. And you can take it off in either direction, forward or back. I'm just taking my time with this. This is the step that's really important to really go slow with, because you can undo all of your precious work. Okay, so I'm looking at this, and I can see right here I have screwed up, and I've got a little bit of the glue onto the fin. That's not going to be easy to get off of there, but I think with a little luck, and I'll show you. Okay, so I'm back, and I've discovered again that I kind of screwed up, and I got a little bit of the glue right in here. There's a bit of it in there, so I'm going to grab this. It's a little sharp knife. If you have one, have your parents help you with this if you really have to do this part. And again, this is kind of why I didn't let it dry any longer than 45 minutes, because if I screw up a little bit, it's still workable. The glue is not quite hardened off completely. So I'm just going to scrape that off of there, and just carefully, I don't want to cut my fins. We go real slow. If you do gouge the fin just a little bit, that should be okay. We can fill that in later. Let's get rid of that. See if we can push it out of there. Use this thing. I'm just going to wiggle that out of there a little bit. There we go. I got it to move. I used this little piece from the previous step, and when I loosened the glue up, I got it to move. And now we're going to go real slow and easy. Really slow and easy. Actually, I might go off the other direction. There we go. So I can push down against the table. There we are. And you can see where I had made the mistake. I got a little extra glue right here. And so now we got to be careful. We don't want to mess with this too much, and we don't want to rest it. Don't lay it down like this while it's still not completely dry. 45 minutes, it's good enough, but if you touch it, it's gonna move. I have some glue right here. I can clean that up later with some sandpaper, or I can smooth it out by wetting the glue down again. But now I'm just going to set this, and I can put it in here, and then just leave it like this for the rest of the drying period. Hey, if yours gets too terribly stuck, and you can see, guys, look at what happened with mine. I wasn't careful enough when I was showing you the video. And you can't really see that very well, can you? Oh, I know why. Let's change the image. There we go. So you can see I got a big chunk of glue right in here. But I don't want to mess with it too much because I don't want my rocket to be screwed up. So we're going to let the glue finish drying, and we will come back to this at a later step. But at this point, we've done the hard work. We've got our rocket. Now remember, what are the important points of this? One, don't smear glue. Push it in, then push it down. But be careful that your glue doesn't get off of this little relief area and into the rest of it. That's what happened with mine. I let it dry about 45 minutes. Be careful when you take it off. And if it is stuck, you can help yourself out by separating it with something thin and sharp. Make sure you get your parents' help with that if it's a sharp knife. But generally speaking, this thing should be ready to go for our next step. Now, in the next step, what we're going to do is we're going to attach the launch lug onto the rocket also. Thanks for watching, you guys. And again, if you have any problems with this step, this is the most difficult one, just let me know if you're my students. If you're on the internet, I wish you the best of luck.